Hey there, Groovesters and Groove Stars. Ridgely here with another Groove Growth program, and I'm super excited about this because, as we all know, Groove is a fantastic platform to get your message out to the world, put your product, your service, whatever it is that you're crazy about, that is going to change the world in some fashion or another. And yet we still have to know how to communicate what that looks like. And I'm here with my very good friend, Leisa Reid, a communication expert who's done 600 speaking engagements herself. And we'll tell you about her website a little bit later on, and focuses a lot on what actually we don't want to say, the speaker's kryptonite. We're going to learn about that too. Leisa is a Groovester herself. So Leisa, thank you so much for joining our community. We so appreciate it. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here. I love my GrooveFunnels website.
Right? Exactly. So do a lot of us that are tapping in here. So you've been coaching speakers for a really long time. You coach them not only on how to speak, but how to get booked, etc. In Groove, one of the things that I love about Groove is, hey, being able to say, whoever you are, you deserve to be heard. You have a voice. The platform of Groove helps you do the logistics behind getting the voice out there, but we still have to train our voice, so to speak, so that people hear us, can understand what we're all about, and benefit from whatever we have to offer.
We do, yes. And there's so many different ways. Like when I hear people hear speaker or speaking, a lot of times they're like, oh, I'd rather do a root canal than be a speaker. But when you say share your voice, all of a sudden we're opening up to, oh, I could share my voice in a sales funnel, on a website, in a video, on a live, on, all these different ways, in a blog, in an article. So just for anyone listening, please think like, what's your preferred way to share your voice? Where do you think your voice needs to be out there in the marketplace? Who needs to hear your voice? Like all those things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you have a microphone in hand. It might be another way that you feel really comfortable.
Yeah, and in any case, no matter what your preferred method is, and for some people it's going to be all of the above. For some people it's going to be one of the above. Oh no, I'm not doing it. I just don't do it, right? It doesn't matter whether it's one of the above or all of the above. We still have to get some real proficiency at that if we want to have the maximum impact with our product, our service, and our passion.
Yeah, I think it's just like anything. We try something new and we're, as adults, it's like, oh, I should be really good at this because it's not that hard. And we don't give ourselves really a lot of grace. And that happens a lot in the speaking realm. Someone will say to me, well, I spoke and I didn't get any sales, or I spoke and it didn't go well. I don't know. And I'm like, well, you did it one time. Oh my gosh. I would say this might sound crazy to some people, but the first 100, you learn a lot. You learn a lot in the first 100. That's a good school, right?
I remember Les Brown was a very good friend and a mentor to me. I was blessed to be a member of his faculty for Les Brown Academy. It was Les Brown University, I mean. And when asked the question, what does it take to be a great speaker? The first thing out of his mouth was 500 speeches. So, but we're not talking so much about becoming the best speaker in the world. We're talking about being heard and getting our voice out there without the pressure of having to stand on stages with a microphone, which is something that most people wouldn't do. I can tell you, my wife is among those people who absolutely would prefer a root canal over that.
There are so many, and I can definitely speak to that. We can chat about that at the end too. But what I call, when we talk about things stopping us from getting our voice out, to me, I call it speaker's kryptonite. And I decided to call it that because it's so different for every single person. And like your wife might have a certain specific instance or reason that happened long ago that said, okay, we're never doing that again, which is pretty common for a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons as a kid that we decide we don't want to be a quote unquote public speaker. But when I talk about speaker's kryptonite, this really is more on a business focus because it's a silent killer of your voice, right? It's like, and so one of the things is really listening to it. And I'll even share my own example of my own speaker's kryptonite that can pop up here and there. And it starts to sound like, I don't know if, or what if, which I think is sometimes, which can be two of the most detrimental words or two of the most powerful words, depending on what comes after what if.
Yeah.
What if nobody likes my message? What if I fail? What if it all goes wrong? What if it never works? What if? And that's a huge case of speaker's kryptonite that a lot of people suffer from.
Yeah. So how can we, for all the people that are watching or listening right now, they're saying, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happens to me. I totally get it. How do we challenge that, or how do we confront that, or put our arm around it and walk side by side with it, or what does that look
I
like?
love it. It's like invited in for a cup of tea, right? First, you need to be cognizant enough to catch it. Like when you are, a lot of times I'll have someone come to me and they'll say, oh, I was just asked to speak and I'm terrified. I told them no, I've been avoiding it. I never responded to their email. And so I decided I should probably look at, getting a speaking coach or, working because clearly I have some message share, but I'm pushing those opportunities away. So catching the kryptonite is like your first clue. And I just, because, we have all these little people in our head, right? It's like all the committee is in there. So I'll say, oh, thank you. The what if person that you're asking all these questions, I'm hearing you. I'm acknowledging your role here. Thank you for protecting me from in the past, maybe getting humiliated or embarrassed or falling flat on my face. And then once you can acknowledge it and have that, it's like a conversation and we're dialoguing with ourselves. Then I tap in, that allows me then to tap into my soul's wisdom. Okay, now that fear has calmed. I recognize that it's there. It's protecting me. What else do I know about myself? Oh, I'm here to change lives. I'm here to raise consciousness. I'm here to, this message could help someone else significantly in their life. Ooh, wow. Now that what if gets turned around. Like, what if someone's life could be saved by, what you have to say? What if you have the business of your dreams? What if it all goes great? Now we've flipped it over.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly right. It's kind of like that two sides of the coin, crisis, opportunity, right? That kind of a thing. Very, very interesting. So I want to hear what's yours. Before I hear mine, I want to hear yours.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it too, because I actually had a significant case of speaker's kryptonite pop up when we had our initial conversation. And anytime you're evolving, growing, or anytime you're always kind of eking out of your comfort zone, it's going to come up. So it's okay. It's fun. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's fascinating. And mine is typically in the family of not enough, the not enoughness family. If anyone can relate to the not enoughness family, I can have not enough of anything, right? So it can be, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not successful enough, like I'm not a celebrity enough, I'm not smart enough. All those things can come up. And I like to get really specific with it, because otherwise people go, oh, that's imposter syndrome. And I'm like, yeah, but that's such a blanket term. Like, what's your real, what's the one that gets you? What does your mind tell you? What does my mind tell me? And so I heard that, and I could even feel it like in my body, like kind of like a tense, or maybe like a heartbeat is going a little fast, and, shortness of breath. And so all these are clues. They're clues for me to go, oh, my system's trying to protect me from this next growth, like jumping into that deeper pool of water. What if I drown? Right. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. And Ridgely invited you to come. This is me talking to me. Ridgely invited you to come onto the show. He doesn't seem to be concerned about your level of success. He actually thinks you're pretty cool person. So, and you have a lot of value to add. So he's a smart guy. Listen to him.
Mhm. So
And that's like a
largely
real example, right?
an internal dialogue that you have with yourself. And I think that, you know, and I'll share mine in just a minute too. I think that the thing that everybody would want to clue into here is that this applies at every level. It's not just getting in front of a stage. It's putting a message out there on Facebook,
Yeah.
or doing something to the LinkedIn audiences of the world. How are you showing up on your website? Does it truly reflect who you are and what you stand for? And most importantly, what you believe? Because at the end of the day, there's somebody down the street that sells what you sell. But that doesn't mean that they will relate to you, connect with you, and want to acquire that thing when they need it from you,
Right.
if they can hear you.
Yeah. I've had clients who, you know, they work closely with me to get their talk ready to rock, to start getting booked. But then we get into, okay, so you need to send out emails. And I had one client, she was frozen. She's like, I have this, I don't want to send out emails. I'm like, well, then we need to unpack that. Like, let's talk about it. What's the fear? What's going on? What are you telling yourself? Is that true? And because it's going to come up for her every single time she needs to send an email. So we need to like address it, like get that figured out, because otherwise the business is going to be at a standstill.
You know, and I think this is really important, and I want to make a kind of a general statement about the process of online marketing, because in Groove provides all of us with this incredible platform that can take your message, your stuff, your materials all over the world. But we still have to master a lot of pieces in that process. It's not as simple as, let me slap together a website. I've got this awesome product and people are going to beat down the doors and get it from me. No, you have to become an expert at telling your story, whatever your story is, so that the human bond that causes people to make decisions is forged in such a way that somebody says, yes, I want that. Yes, I'm interested in that.
Absolutely. It's like having a Ferrari stuck in the, just sitting in the garage. You could be in there and never drive it. You still have a Ferrari. You just never use it.
And oh, by the way, you pull the Ferrari out of a garage and you still got to learn how to drive a Ferrari.
Yes, there is yes. I've sat in a Ferrari and it was a friend of mine's and I was like, I'm not driving this. There's no way I'm driving this Ferrari because I don't know how to drive one. And I wouldn't, that's not my particular interest. My husband loves it, but.
I have a friend who had multiple Ferraris. And I remember one day he says, man, I got the coolest new car. I go, what? He says, it's a paddle shift Ferrari. He says, I said, oh, cool. He said, yeah, you want to drive it? I go, yeah. So he just throws me the keys and says, go for it. So out in the driveway is a yellow Ferrari. And the only way to change gears is on a paddle shifter.
I'm literally sweating right now, Ridgely.
So you can hear me like sounding like a doofus because I did not know how. I'd never driven a paddle shift car, period. Never mind a Ferrari that goes
a brand new one also.
Oh. So what are the things that you encounter with people that are the most common blocks, if you will, and what can we do about those? I'd love to hear a little bit more, because in essence, what we're looking to do here with our Groove community is help people overcome their blocks.
Yeah, it's basically when we talk about this kryptonite, and of course I'm coming from that speaker lens, but it could really be anything. There are a couple of, there's the what if is probably the most popular one. So if you hear yourself say, what if fill in the blank, those are start to get really clear on what are your what ifs. The other one is I need to, and it sounds like this. I need to write a book before I do that. I need to have more videos. I need to study X, Y, and Z. I need to learn more about this. I need to research this, that, and the other. And I call them seductions because it can sound like a really great idea. Of course, you want to grow and learn and evolve, but you could learn everything and still do nothing. You could be writing your talk, writing your book, getting your video perfect for a really, really, really long time.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
So what's the best way to combat that? Because there's so many people that the fear thing that's underlying that I need to, that stop themselves from their own success, or even from moving forward and failing, which might be the prerequisite to success. In other words, the motion's got to happen for somebody to get somewhere, even if the initial steps are falling on your face enough times to where you finally go, I got this now. I don't have to fall on my face. So how do people combat the I need to?
I think this is a great tip because it costs you a piece of paper and a pen, which you probably already have. And it's just, and you've probably done this before originally. It's just, yep, there you go. I've got one too. I think the easiest, quickest way to overcome is the dump process. And so basically you take whatever that fear is, or whatever that concern is, whatever the thing you're like, oh, I really want to put my GrooveFunnels site together, or I really want to go be a speaker, whatever that is, whatever your next thing is you're working on, and be very radically honest with yourself about what is getting in your way. It's on your piece of paper. You don't need to show it to anyone. And it's called a dump process. And I just go through and I go, well, what if this happened? And I'm afraid of that. And then I'd have to do this. And then what if I had that? And then I'd have this. And then this would be horrible. And then I'm living in a van down by the river. You know what I mean? Like all the worst things that could happen if they're in your mind. I don't know what those things are. But holding it in your mind, it just end up spinning on it over and over again. It's like a rinse cycle that just keeps repeating. So there's something really powerful about that pen to paper. Just put it on there, get it out. If you want to throw it away, you can. If you want to keep it, you can. If you want to burn it, whatever. But I think that clearing is very, very critical, so that you can also be aware of it, and then you can set it aside, and now you have new space, new fertile ground to grow something different.
I love that. I can see that being very effective. I'm writing notes over here because I like this. I think that's great. Yeah, I can see that. The I need to.
Yeah. I need to do this. I have to do that. I should do this. What if they think this? So the I don't know how to is another one. Like, well, I don't know how to put my GrooveFunnel thing together. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to do a video. I don't know. Right. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know if they're going to like me. I don't know if I'm going to make a mistake. Of course you don't know. So again, that could be another one. The what ifs, the I don't know, and the I need to are the three biggies.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an unanswerable question that just keeps your mind busy it keeps it in that stalled gear.
Yeah. So people just get like basically frozen by this concept, and there's like, we have to work through it. And wow. So for me, been at this speaking thing for a really, really long time, and at a really high level where, whether we like it or not, on the CEO circuit where I speak, YPO, EO, Vistage, Tech, Accelerate, you get rated every single time you speak, every single time. So there is no such thing as having a bad day. It's not acceptable. You can't. You can have really good days and superlative days, but a bad day at this level is completely unacceptable because you get blackballed and blacklisted forever. So it's not an option to have a bad day. I think of all kinds of instances. I had a yellow fever shot that I had to get before speaking in Africa, dripping with sweat all night long, sick as a dog, had to speak at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was in the sauna, drinking water, hydrating, feeling like hell, walk out there, do the speech. Nobody knew. At 12 noon, I was back in bed sweating like a dog. Again, doesn't matter. You got to show up and full out, whatever, etc. So mine is, what if I forget my words?
Yes.
What if I forget my words? So here's the crazy thing. So pandemic's coming to a close, and I get invited to speak to 500 business owners in Ohio. So it's a big, huge chamber of commerce meeting, 500 business owners, which, getting in front of 500 business owners can lead to an awful lot of business, right? But I haven't spoken in front of a crowd in years because of the pandemic. We've all been shut down. Now, I've been doing Zoom meetings, webinar meetings, whatever, of course. How long have I been speaking at a very high level? 25 years. Do you think it mattered? Not one bit. So I had to show up in the room at 9:30 in the morning. Presentation was at noon. So from approximately 10 o'clock in the morning until noon, I walked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in the back of the room, repeating the opening lines over and over and over and over and over. Even though I've said them 1,000 times, exactly the same way, it didn't matter. That what if I forget my words? Fear was so real that I knew it had to become so automatic that I couldn't worry about it anymore. And of course, to make things more interesting, the CEO of the chamber gets up on the thing to do an introduction and just completely throws that plan all to hell by saying something like, okay, get ready, because right now the energy in this room is about to change, because this guy coming up right now does this whole thing that had nothing to do with my opening lines whatsoever. Right? Here's where that training paid off. And this is why I want to talk to you about the value of training and really rehearsing. Because I was so confident that I was going to be okay with the opening line, I threw the opening lines away and was just fine, because I had to go with what she, the CEO, was bringing me up to do, and to do this whole energy thing and have people high five each other and tell them you are marvelous and do all this kind of crazy stuff to get them excited. And then I could move into my opening lines.
Love it.
But so that thing for me, it is a what if. It's what if I forget my lines?
Yeah, a lot of people relate to that, and that'll have them clutching their notes or not letting go of the lines or the memorization. And depending on where you are in terms of speaking, there's times where it's like it's so well thought out that there is critical levels of this needs to be exactly this. And everyone's different. It's funny. I don't tend to have memorized pieces, but what I do have is, and this is what you were talking about. You wanted to get it in your have the unconscious competence, right? You're like, I want it. And I tell my clients this all the time. You want to get to that unconscious competence so that your talk is just embedded. It's in the DNA and you don't have to think about it. Because if you're thinking about your content, then of course you're not serving the audience. As you know, that's probably what you're worried about, because you're worried about, oh, what if I forget? What if I forget? What if I forget? So whatever a person can do to get to that unconscious competence. And I joke, it's like when the kids ask the owl how many licks to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop. Like, I don't know. Do you have to walk back and forth for 2 hours saying one line over and over again? Or it depends. It depends on that person. But I love how you adjusted in the moment. And that's your years of expertise and comfort, and your adaptability and your excellence really came through.
And I think that it applies again to all things. So like that person that was really afraid of emails. Well, how do you get comfortable with emails? Write some more emails.
Yeah.
It's not like rocket science.
And having support. There's something about like in the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, where it talks about quantum physics. And there's something powerful about knowing that someone's watching, even if they're not going to check on your work. So she knew that she had told me she's going to email these people, and there's a reason why, and there's a strategy, and there's benefits. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to build a case of why email could be really healthy. It could be really good. And then I'm going to work with her on, this isn't what I typically do for all my clients, but this was just her issue that was blocking her. So we're going to make sure it's okay. So I read through the email with her. Let's get a template that feels comfortable. And then she goes and sends the emails, and what do you know, she gets booked right away because she sent this cool email and nobody died, right? It's like, oh, hey, look at that. We're building new evidence that things are going to be okay. And that's really important too.
Yeah. And it can start so easily, Leisa, right? Some people can put out some Facebook posts, and all of a sudden you get some likes, and people go, and then you get some comments. They're like, what? Wow, this is amazing. My voice matters. There are people who are listening to me and are actually engaging in some way or another. What about the fear of sales? I mean, there's a big one right here. Let's talk about how I remember one of my good
that's like a 2-hour, 4-hour, 10-hour episode.
I know, right? Let's just talk about it a little bit, though, because I remember talking to my friend, good friend, Marsha Weeder. Marsha Weeder, one of the most brilliant women speakers on the planet today. She's just great, and been around a long time, founded Dream University, done all that kind of stuff. And she said to me, she said, well, here's the thing about asking for the sale. You can ask for as much as will comfortably come out of your mouth. And I thought to myself, so it really is not at all about the money. It's actually about how you feel about your own value. What do you say to that?
I agree. And I think it's tricky for entrepreneurs when they see, especially so much on social media and other people's successes, and they want that so bad. And then they might leap a little too far past the comfort zone to where they're not integrated yet. So then they go for the big sale or whatever that number is. A big is so relative, interpretive term, and they don't, have that immediate success. All of a sudden, deflated. It didn't work. Oh my gosh, So I like to baby step things. To me, when I'm working with someone and they're like, okay, I go, how much is your favorite product or service that you offer? And what is the price of that? And then we work from there, because it depends if they go, oh, my offer is ABC and the price is 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, great. Okay, cool. Now we have something. Or it might look like something. Well, I know it's not as priced as I think, and so I'm like, okay, got it. So I listen to where are we with even your comfort level of what you're offering? And then where's the price point at? What have you sold before? Again, it's all about that evidence. If you've never sold anything, it could be easy for you, but it might be challenging for you to have that first transactional experience. So I just we baby step it in. So I'm like, okay, let's, I say, if your comfort zone's here, let's just go a little bit past it. Can we just go one step over and then try that? And then we're going to just keep moving the line. And then we're just go one step over. And that might be a really fast process. It might be a slow process. Depends on the person.
And this is, again, applies to all aspects of your product sales. It doesn't matter if we're talking about your course or the thing that you're offering online, whatever that thing is, there's offering it at this price, and then there's offering the exact same thing positioned differently at the next price. And offering the exact same thing with a little tack on bonus that isn't worth a whole hell of a lot, actually, but it's positioned differently at a whole nother price. And you just can keep on going. Yet, to me, at least, the work that must be done is not on the thing. The thing's already done. It's on you and your perception of how much you are worth as manifested through that thing, whatever that thing is, and through your own consciousness.
Yeah. And allowing yourself that new normalization, oh, now I can sell this much. Oh, hey, somebody said yes. That's super powerful. When that first time you sell something or you get a sale, whether it was through a conversation or through the internet or some kind of digital product, that first evidence that what you have somebody wants is very powerful. And then you can just keep going from there. It's really exciting.
And so many things that we can do, whatever they are. One of the things that I do, which a lot of people would very much on just a nuts and bolts level disagree with is I have very high balances in banks. And I don't need to. Do I understand that the bank doesn't pay very much interest? Very much so, especially when I get the interest that is paid there. 32 cents for the last month.
For 2021.
Well, what is not so obvious is that it makes me feel confident.
Yes.
It makes me feel like my house is in order.
Mhm.
I'm good.
Mhm.
And now, therefore, let me do my work.
Yes.
So what do you think of that? You know, the tricks that we play for ourselves, valuable.
So important. There's, as you know, we have upper limits and lower limits of everything, right? So it could be your weight. It could be how much you read, how much you learn, how much money you have in your wallet, like how much cash. Like now we're starting to enter in this cashless society, right? But I still, I always have $300 in my wallet. It's just in there. I haven't spent that $300 in several years because it's just, I like to have, it's very intentional. I always know I have that money. Now I'm not going to give my address out on the, no, I'm just kidding. But I used to, for many, many years, I would just have whatever cash I had. I didn't really think about it. And someone said, oh, you should always have at least 300. I thought, really? I thought, well, try that. And you can play with your upper or lower limit. So everyone, if you're listening, think how much cash do you have in your wallet? Well, there's a certain amount that you never go under. You're like, oh, I would never leave the house with less than blank. And then there's a certain amount that's like, well, I wouldn't want to carry around that much because then I'd feel scared, or what if someone robbed me or what? So we all have some kind of limit, or there's a bottom and there's a top. So when you know that, you're like, ooh, well, let me play with that. Well, like you're like, I like to have this much in the bank account because then I can go do what I need to do. I know that everything's taken care of. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's powerful.
Yeah. And whatever and again, I think did you do your prayers this morning? Did you go for a run? Did you spend some time in quiet meditation? Did you do whatever the thing is that you need to do to make you feel comfortable with moving forward without a lot of blocks or stops? Because a lot of what we're talking about, at least that seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we put these self-imposed stops or blocks on ourselves, and we need to figure out how to remove them and how to stop them from creeping in.
Well, it's just more of like, I don't even know if it's a removing. It's like a being aware of them. Most people aren't even aware that they have those upper and lower limits, like how much money you can make. Like that's another limit. Like, well, I've never made this much, so that's the ceiling. And then this happens a lot with like, I've always just get right up to the ceiling, but never cross over. So that's okay. You need to address that. Like, what is your limit? What's your lower limit? I've never, like I was joking earlier, I'm never going to live in a van, but down by the river, right? Because that I would never get to that low limit, right? Just not going to happen with the skills that I have in my life and the drive that I have. But we all have that. So knowing what they are and then getting to play with it, being intentional about it instead of it's happened to you. We learn this, we learn from culture, society, parents, life. We learn what our limits are, but now you can start to change them. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And you can even, at least in my world, I think you can test them. You can test your limits.
Yes.
What if I just did a little, like you said, like go a little further, just a little further. Like you were saying that when you're working with your clients, I think we can do that with all of our limits. Absolutely.
Because then you build, I'm really into like building that evidence, because then your mind starts to go, oh, well, I guess, I guess I can't do that. All right. It happened that one time. We'll see if it's a fluke, oh, it happened twice. Okay. And then your system can start to calm down, and then you have a new normal, like, oh, I guess now I kind of do that. Now I just have those regular sales, or I have those regular numbers, or I speak, or I, have this part of my business is set up. Like I'm not scrambling, trying to figure everything out on it's all dialed in because I got my GrooveFunnels all figured out. So we have upper and lower limits for our anxiety, our organization, how much we're willing to run around like a crazy person. And I don't like that. I like to be balanced as much as possible. Lower that anxiety as much as possible.
That's right. So that you can do more, offer more, serve more, et cetera. So all of the removal of these blocks, as we said, the what ifs, the I need tos,
I don't know. Yeah.
all of those things are stuff that we need to play with so that we're in constant expansion. Because one thing we know for sure, the world is expanding and contracting and expanding and contracting. One thing it's never doing is standing still or just being still. So you're either expanding or you're contracting in the moment. And therefore, if we want to ensure that we're part of the expansion, and I hope that as a Groovester you'd feel that way, then we have to challenge these limits.
Yeah. You know, there was another piece to that. We were talking about the dump process a while back. And to me, that's like the brakes, right? Like if we're back to the Ferrari conversation. So the dump process helps you release the brakes, like you know, all the resistance, all the things that, you know, although I don't know if I can, well, all the things I have to do, all that stuff, the fears, the worries, the concerns. When that's released in that moment, then you also have the gas pedal. Now you can, you know, put that vision out there. Here's what I'm creating. Here's what's happening in my life, and put all that juicy intention and vision and stuff in there. I think what a mistake that a lot of people make is they're so pushing their foot down on that gas pedal so hard of like, I'm going to make it happen. And law of attraction, I'm going to manifest it. I got my vision board, blah, 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 you know, and my affirmations, and they're pushing on that gas pedal. But if your brake pedal is on the same amount as the gas pedal, you're going nowhere. So it's literally this, like, you know, lever system back to like releasing and pressing at the same time.
I was just thinking about how, you know, if you could, for example, time travel, right? And you could take a Ferrari and go back 100 years and be side by side with the best horse and buggy riders in the universe, side by side, right there on that track. It really wouldn't matter how good that horse and buggy rider was or how bad the Ferrari driver was. If they could at least take their foot off the brake, the Ferrari wins every single time. And in a lot of ways, that's true with Groove too, because Groove is a Ferrari and we have to learn how to drive that Ferrari. And that's just part of it. The reason I love this conversation is because everybody in Groove, you, me, and all the people that are listening or watching, everybody has a Ferrari. There are two pieces to this. There's number one, learning how to drive the Ferrari, and number two, getting your damn foot off the brake, right? Which is stopping those limiting beliefs and getting over those things that are putting blocks up in front of you, which is personal development. It's why Groove Growth exists. It's why we do this week in, week out, to try to plant these seeds in our minds that say, that Leisa Reid, she's really smart. I'm going to start carrying $300 around. I'm not, but I just want to see what that feels like, right? Do something like that for yourself. Challenge yourself in some way. Raise your price on a product and see what happens. By the way, it might not work, but that's okay. Then you have a piece of evidence, a piece of data on how to make something better. So really, really valuable stuff. So last parting words to our Groove community. What would you say to them about how do I overcome these kryptonites? How do I get rid of these blocks? What can I do? How can I turn the what ifs into the what ifs?
The what if I can't to what if I can. You know, like just a review, dump it out, write it out, talk it out, whatever you want to do, get it out. And then start creating your vision. And if you're interested in speaking, like you can start creating your vision of like, what would you see? What would you feel? What would you be experiencing? What would it be like? Who's around you? What are you hearing? Like you tap into all the senses and really get that picture. One tip I like to do when I write intentions and the visions is date it a year in advance. So then I can get into the mode of like acting as if it already happened. So it's like, oh, you know, this day of this year, next year, oh, I was doing this and this and this, and you're like telling a story. So that's really exciting thing. You can do that with any part of your business, whatever you're struggling with or whatever you're striving for, you can always use that process.
Thank you very much. I know the title of your book is Get Speaking Gigs Now website, getspeakinggigsnow.com. Obviously,
Yes.
that'll be right below here. So go tap into that. There's some cool free stuff over there. Now.com. Go check that out. We've had a fabulous session with Leisa Reid. Take advantage of her expertise, her knowledge, her wisdom, and go out there and challenge your blocks, challenge your stops. The world needs all of us at our best with our message, so that they can really benefit and we can make our little piece of change in this world that needs our help. Leisa Reid, thank you so very, very much on behalf of the entire Groove community. Deeply appreciate you. Guys, go hit the button below. Check out what else Leisa has to offer us. And Leisa, again, we'll have to do this again sometime. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See you next time.